MOT diesels. So what I have decided to do today, this poor old beggar, I think the MOT ran out in like 2019. It was like a van I sold and then I traded in and bought back again. Parked it here. And then the MOT ran out, we parked it here. And it might ended up getting used as a shed. And I might happily not be able to find the keys. But it was parked here mainly because it needed a windscreen panel. And it was quite tidy then. Might ruin that bit. So, 2019. So I reckon it's been sat here unstarted for 4 years. Maybe 5. So the cunning plan is to see if we can get this pile of dump to go. Now I'd like to point out that this is not a dead gerbil wedged in my top pocket. It's a microphone with one of them fluffy windy things on it. So I'm not murdering gerbils, it's a microphone. Right, so I'm now going to remove the steering lock, the WPS, the computer. I have gained access, but I'm not showing you how I did that, otherwise there'll be people off around all over the place nicking sprinters. And we'll see after 5 years, we'll throw a battery on it after replacing the computer, obviously because I haven't got the key, I haven't got the chip that talks to the computer's ECU. I could code another one, but it's just as easy to swap it out for another computer, another WPS receiver box and another chip, and then obviously just pop the ignition barrel off and broomy. Or not. Set the wing mirror in the right place. Right, here goes. Right, so what we currently have, steering lock's on, or if it wasn't, it is now because I wiggled it. Obviously, we have no ignition key. I don't know where that went. It's probably here somewhere, but I went through like 40 keys and nothing happened. So this is probably the easier way of doing it. So what I have here is basically, obviously we have lots of these being a Mercedes breaker. This is a Mercedes Sprinter 313 ECU. That's the WPS, which is the key receiver. And then stuck on the back of it with a bit of sticky tape is the chip that goes in the key that tells the fucking WPS to tell the computer that you haven't nicked it and you're allowed to drive it. So if I turn the key now, which obviously will be difficult because I haven't got it, but we'll get there in a minute. If you ever have trouble with these, it'll come up start safe across the dashboard. Now normally start safe means we haven't got a key chip. So if your van says start safe and it won't go, you've either lost the key chip or damaged the key reader around. There's that little black thing around the key, where the slot goes, where the key goes in, down here around the ignition barrel. But most likely, most of the time, you've lost the chip out of the key. So what we're going to do, man's going to hop in here, so we have to remove some parts. Let me reposition my coffee that Fudge has just made me because he's a good man like that. We've got him well trained. So the WPS key receiver, that's, take the gaffer tape off of it. This bit is positioned here at the back of the dashboard. God blimey, my windscreen's gone pop as well. Oh well, it'll have to come out for a screen panel. And then the computer, this bit is positioned down there. And then obviously we've got to get steering wheel surround off to allow us to remove the steering lock. Now, no one whinge about the fact that this is like a video on how to nick your Sprinter. It isn't. Because if you were a cunning car criminal, or let's put it, a cunning, oh, we won't put that screw back in. We'll find it in a minute. Cunning van thief, you wouldn't want to do this much work to nick one anyway. There are much easier ways of doing this, involving diagnostic machines, bits, flash kit and stuff. But we're not doing that. We're going to do it this way. So basically, 2 screws, bit of a pole, and this is obviously using the test around, that falls off, and then bits of it fall out like that. So we just lean that over there, put this bit back in, and I manage that. And it's got all the bits in it. Oh, it's broken anyway, that was fine, I feel less bad now. That can go in there, take that in there. Oh, it's escaped in there too. I've been a bit ham-fisted with that. Right, yep. Yep, took that and that. Excuse the bird noise. It appears that the sparrows behind me are having a riot of some description, not caused by me, I'd like to point out. I think it might have been breeding season recently. Hello boys, are we trying to learn to fly? I'm not doing you over, don't worry about it. You've been living in there for months, just crack on, right? So yes, 2 screws here like this. See what excitingness is in behind here, because this is a prime mouse spot if you ever leave your van parked up. They like living in behind these dashboards. So we'll see if there's any rodents in here. Oh, I know we are rodent free. So 2 screws off of there. Then you can sort of pull this thing off the back of the dash like that without breaking anything if you're careful. Just give it here. Carefully done. Careful, that was careful, wasn't it? So this is the old Timic box that obviously receives the key chip that we haven't got. This is the new one going in, and then stuck on the back of here, so a man doesn't lose things, is this is the tiny little chip that's in your key that if you lose, he pushes in the side of a Sprinter key. You lose this, comes up, start safe. So we're going to put that over there so it's safe. Right, let's take the tape off of it. I suppose all professional, doesn't it? Or half the tape off of it. Calm down, sparrows, calm down. Right, so we clip that in there like this. Ta-da, broom done. And then this bit clips back in here. I mean, most times don't bother clipping it in, just leave it flapping around, that'd be fine, wouldn't it? Well, that's clipped in. What we might as well do, while we're here, is just quickly put the dashboard back on, because we won't need to be going in there again, and that saves us losing all the screws. Remember to drink your coffee before it goes cold too. Sorry if you could hear some slurping there, but it's part of life. It's very difficult to drink a cup of coffee without slurping. Right, so then once you've affected that bit, you can chuck this bit back up in here out of the way. So what you don't do is forget that you've got it lent in the door, slam the door, ruin it. So you need, basically then, you've got to get under here like this, using completely the wrong implement, and then remove this fuse box cover. I'll still try not to lose all the screws, and find the screw that you lost a minute ago that's in here somewhere. So we've got 2 Phillipses, hold the bottom dash cover on. So one there, that one there, like so. And then basically now we're into sockets. Top quality Parkside socket set. Lidl's, brilliant, 12 quid. Fuse them, lose them, break them, £12, go and buy another one. Your 10mm socket and a thingy. And then on the bottom of the fuse box here is a 10mm nut. He says, is that a 10mm socket? That's a 9mm socket. Probably why that's not going to work, isn't it? That's a 10mm socket. Right, so in here like so, and just take the bottom screw, nut, sorry, nut, it's not a screw, and got the little nut on the bottom like that, and then basically, with a bit of wogglage, this bit will come off. And you get your screw back you lost earlier. Back there, 1 second, so we're not going second time lucky. Now, what you've got to try and do now is the fuse box is screwed to the bottom, so you've got like your indicator torch and stuff here. And then you've got the big fuse box, vehicle supply fuse box screwed to the bottom of it. So it's got doubled up 10mm nuts on the bottom, one of which has an earth wire, which you have to remember to put back on afterwards. And then you've got one sort of funky 10mm nut that goes into the bottom of the unit here, that always breaks. So what happens is, you can't turn the 10mm nut in it, and then you sort of have to forcibly remove it. That's what we're going to have to do in a minute. Would you lot just calm down? Honestly, it's like a sparrow rave up there, isn't it? I don't mind you quietly living in my roof. Thank you. Right, so 10mm bolt, just stick him up there, and then you'll see there's a little air tab wire that comes off here. That frees the fuse box. Now the next bit is going to be a bit vicious because it's got this annoying bolt in here that won't come out, and I'm going to have to be nasty to it. Like that. There we are. Done. That basically releases the fuse box. Now plugged in the back of the fuse box, just here, is the big wire coming off the key, and then on the front of the key, if you pop it off, is the key reader that receives the chip. So lucky enough, as this isn't the first time a man's lost the keys for this van, well, that's actually not technically right. Timothy had it, went strimming with the keys in his pocket after using it to get strimmers to the place, and lost the keys. This was like 6 years ago when we first bought it. So of course this steering lock is sheared off, it's bolted on with sheared off bolts. The idea being that obviously when Mercedes fit them, they do them up nice and tight, and the head of the bolt shears off so that no one else can just quickly whip in here, undo the bolts, pull the steering lock off. Now, I had to engineer a way past that last time, but it has paid dividends because this time I don't need to, because I cut slots in the shear offs, and I can now just unscrew it. But I need to go and get some screwdrivers, and then we'll remove the steering lock. Plan. Right, after going and finding the correct size screwdriver, possibly to get in here to get this shear off bolt back out again, like that. I've been using these two. Pop the ignition barrel out quick, or ignition, we call it a barrel, it's the entire ignition lock and steering lock as one, so that we can, as a turn of the wheels, or the wheel, to turn the wheels, stop being an arse. Right, I've got one of them freed off. Right, ooh, there we are. So you can see that's actually a shear off bolt. Now we've been here before, so when we did it last time, obviously you have to tap them round with a tiny chisel to get them off, because they have like a head on them when they put them in the factory. They crank it up really tight and it shears off. The idea being that obviously it makes it more difficult to steal. That's fine, it's a good idea. So once you've tapped them back round when you had to do it last time with a tiny screwdriver, the best bet is just to flash across it with an angle grinder and put a little screwdriver slot in it, and then you can undo it when you've been an idiot and lost the keys for the second time. So that then gives you the ability to get in here, he said, and make the lock fall off. There's two of them, there's another one at the top here. Like that, you can remove the bracket, which then allows you to wobble on this a bit, do that, and then your steering locks off. Now at current, as we only want to move this van, I'm not going to get it off properly, you have to take the steering wheel off, because the wiper and iron stalks are bolted to the top of it. So basically it looks like this. So as you can see, there's the two shear off bolts, key thing, lovely, plugs into a fuse box. So purely for the minute to make it move. And then obviously there would be a key reader, which is this bit, clips in round here. Now this is not technically the right ignition barrel for this vehicle. This is for an early Volkswagen LT. Same unit, same key chippy thing, but obviously this key doesn't have a chip. So that's not a worry, we can get around that. So what we'll do is we'll use this to start it for a minute. And then once we've got it alive, man can pop it around the front of the workshops, out of the blistering mid-June heat where a man is melting at current, and then fish the complete set of locks off of a dead van that we got parked around there, nick this off another Sprinter, remove all this in the cool, and then we've got a van with a key. All the door locks are easy changed, because you can change actually the door locks without needing to use a key once you've gained access to the vehicle. So this will suffice for starting it for a minute. So what we're going to do is we'll quickly pop this lump of dashboard that we no longer need out back on. Obviously the crazy sparrows are having a whale of a time up there. So we just pop this back on it gently like that. Look at that, that went in beautifully. And then pop that here, plug this in here like that. That will allow us to turn the ignition on using like a remote ignition. So now what we're going to do is one, I'm going to go and find it a battery because it hasn't got one of those at current. What matters, well, that'll be on the seat. And we'll turn the ignition on before we change the computer, and I'll show you what I mean by the start safe bit. And then we'll get positioned better once we've show you how to change your computer. And then we might try some starting. Right, so we fill the battery. Obviously, as we've got the battery in, the ignition has come alive because I've got the door open. So you can see the 12 o'clock, which it isn't, obviously, because we just put the battery on it, and 200, there she is, she's gone to sleep. So what I'm going to do now is I'll just demonstrate the start error thing. Or start error, sorry, not start safe. So if I turn this key on, see, and all of a sudden, start error. So basically the vehicle's recognised that the chip is not present, and if I turn the key, nothing happens. See, so at current the vehicle is immobilised. So what we're going to do now, I'll turn it back off again so the mileage is up. We're going to go over there and we'll change the computer. So once we change the computer, we then need to go outside in the boiling heat and check its levels. Because we do now have the ability to steer. Admittedly, there's a bit of wonkiness going on with the gauges, but that's fine for moving it around the yard. And we'll need to fit and computer lying under there, swap it out for this one, and then we'll put the old one out the way somewhere for a minute. And then we're going to need to sticky tape that chip to the key reader until we get the lock sorted properly. But anyway, I'm going to go back out there in the blazing sunshine and chase the computer. Right, we're out in the blazing. I've got my shorts on today, so my white legs is out for the first time this year, so if people at the space station can see them, I'll apologise for giving it a bit of a weak sunshine, and I've calmed down a bit. The shadow, the shine will have gone. So what we're going to do now is change the ECU. So this is 313 CDI Sprinter ECU, similarly here. This is an A611. 611 denotes that this is an A611 engine, and then a 513 6279. Now, you'll probably find, and we get asked this all the time, do the numbers have to match exactly? They do seem to work if they don't. As long as it's sort of out of the same period of vehicle, and there is some variant coding differences, admittedly, but all of that can be sorted out with the diagnostic machine. Anyway, what we're going to do now is pop this out, because the ECU is clipped in here like this, and then a bit of leverage, out it comes. So there's the original ECU that we're missing a chip for, and it's got 5 connections. First one's just to pop out. And you've got some hitting sideways ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would say there's a fair chance that the numbers will be somewhere near. So that's an 091 on the end. And as I said, this is a 6279, but I bet you it'll work. Right, let's clip this in here. Like so. God, it's hot in here. This mat is about 3,000 degrees. It's currently burning my arm. Ouch. Right, I'll do this at speed. There we go. That's all clipped in. And then push that up in there like that. That's the ECU refitted. what we'll do is we'll keep this ECU and this WPS together, and then I can code a chip if I need to use it ever. Right, what I'm going to do now is pop around the other side and see if we've got rid of the start error. So we're back in the wagon, and I mean, you can see it's all dangling off a bit here. Now this here is the new chip that obviously should be in, and it will be in the ignition key when we sort it out, and it needs to be registered by this thing. So what we're going to do for a minute is we're just going to stick, using top quality earth tape, this round the pack it in, sparrows, round the key reader, so that for a minute it recognises that, lovely, and then we get rid of our starter. Right, so what we've done now, there's the chip stuck to the WPS, and I can see the dashboard is asleep. Let's check that we'll probably have to come on and off the key because I've unplugged the ECU a couple of times. There we go. So the dash is alive, and we no longer have start error. So if I bump this key, he said, she turns over. So what we're going to do now, we're going to pop round the front, check on the levels, and then we'll get cranking on it and see if it goes. Right, so we are to a point now, obviously just moved that one, where for the first time in 5 years, I'm going to start this. What I will do is I'll clip my microphone under the bonnet so you can hear the harmonious noises of 611 not started for 5 years. So there's a possibility it should have fuel in it. It might go, it might take a bit of coaching into life, or it'll do a Mercedes and go boom, crack-a-lack-a-lack at the start first time. So we're going to go and see what happens now. That wasn't bad. Obviously ran a bit of fuel back to the tank. She did crack off within the first turn and then flop out, and then we had to crank on it a bit to draw some fuel from the tank. That's not really bad after 5 years, and that's pretty reasonable. You listen to that. So I suppose what a man ought to do now, seeing as it's running, is see if it moves. We'll move you guys over there a bit, see what happens. Go. Gotta love a Mercedes. I'll give you a tour around the outside of it just so that don't get all the disbelievers going, oh, you moved that last week. No, I didn't. Wander around. Right, there you go, look. I mean, it's not actually that bad. The door might have evaporated a bit there. And it's going to definitely need a wash and a bit of welding. And as you can see, we're not lying. That's been sat there quite a long time. Appear to have run out of wind on the back here, so we'll attend to that in a minute. And there is where she's been living for the last 5 years. So at least now we can attend to some trimming. I'm going to go and use a trimmer. That's my plan for today. Clear some ivy off the wall of the workshop. Sort some Mackie doors out. And then do something with this. See, which is now, it's a couple of days later. And I've got to do the outro bit. That's the end, obviously, of this. So I've brought it round the front. So what I've got to attend to is some washing. So we'll get next time to seeing if we can get this exciting green off. And I'm going to need to put some tyres on the back of it because I backed it over around here a minute ago. Backed it straight into the ramp and successfully popped the rear top. So we'll call that a successful Saturday. And thank you very much for watching. Al, 6D Diesels.